All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'll call the meeting order for the Wellsprings Fighting School District July meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For business is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? I'll make that motion. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Carries unanimously. General public comment. Is there anyone here tonight who wishes to speak? On to consent agenda, we have the minutes from June 12th and warrant 346 and 352. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Contract recommendations. How the updated. This was updated in the drive, right?
Wait, for the drive, it is or isn't the right one?
It is.
It's like a whole lot of. All right.
Matt?
Yeah, I just had a question.
Are they-
There was a resignation. Does that correspond with the support staff position?
Well,
Oh,
hold that thought for a second. Let's get through the contract recommendations really quick, and then we'll move on to resignations. Is there a motion to approve the contract recommendations as presented? So we have Brooke Makepeace for professional staff at Middletown Springs. That's it for professional staff. The rest of the support. I'll make that motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, on to resignation. All right, Matt, your question?
Well, I saw the resignation, and I also saw that that person is. I guess they're switching roles. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
yes.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay.
Is she currently doing two homes then, like still doing summer food and the office, or are we not?
Yes, and we minimized her role in the summer food portion of it. So she is doing two.
Is the summer one still open, food program, not the summer food program is open still?
Yes.
Need a motion to accept your resignation.
I'll make that motion. It hasn't been made.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Attendance reports. Know that anyone have any questions for the superintendent? Didn't have like on the on some of the legislation that went through. I know kind of wanted to in regards to the Act 168 in regards to the BOCES and stuff. like how that could, how that can have an impact. I know you've mentioned it in other conversations that you and I had. Reading this, it seems a little bit more depth.
So I think with the BOCES, and for those who are, state of New York use the BOCES, which most people are familiar with. It's basically a BOCES is just, it's a regional approach around shared resources, shared staffing. I know that over the past couple of years, there has been growing concerns with the lack of programming, access to highly qualified staff around special education, just occupational therapy, speech language, colleges. And so the state felt that maybe if we looked at a BOCES or a regional approach to this, it might, benefit us. So in terms of what this means, we still do not yet know. I know that the regional, the Southwest Vermont Regional Superintendent's Group in our August meeting, which is the first Monday in August, we are going to start to discuss BOCES and the implications of this, what they may look like for our area. And we are looking at forming, a natural BOCES, which is the SWBSA, which is what I think the state is encouraging areas to do, is to, forge their own BOCES, start looking at what the opportunities and path forward. So we may have a better understanding at the August board meeting about, maybe a brief report about what we discussed, what we talked about, and maybe the year moving forward.
From my understanding, you'll be hiring somebody who is like the superintendent of the BOCES
So
director?
we're still kind of waiting to see what that looks like, whether it be, because a BOCES would be, like, let's say the Southwest Vermont group, which is Mill River, Rutland Northeast, Slate Valley, Rutland City, and GRCSU. Let's say we form a BOCES. The BOCES would then have to have a board or a group, so you'd have to have representation from each of those districts and supervisory unions to kind of oversee that. That's kind of what the bill. Let's look at. This is still, we're still working through the case. There are a lot of questions last spring when this proposed about, rollouts, implementation, timing. So I think we'll have a lot, as the year goes on, we'll have more answers around that in terms of how, if there is that regional group for oversight, how that's formed, how that's appointed. Is it, publicly elected? Is it just, if it's signed? Not quite sure at this point.
I know there's startup money, but how's it going to be funded ongoing?
We're waiting to see how that all rolls out. Yes. I know that, like I said, the regional group we're meeting to discuss, and if I have more answers, I'll be more happy to bring that to to the boards back in August as well about what that would look like. So I do think it's kind of a fast moving thing where they want to get this rolling out. Obviously, there are people who are looking at opportunities for shared resource consolidation across our areas, but we don't know what that looks like. So,
Is this something that's done like at the SU level, obviously? Or is it?
I think we look at how the BOCES would benefits all of our districts, our SU, and in all of our schools.
And this would only be for section 12 or
Yeah.
elementary too.
It would be, I think, all the way through.
Any other questions?
On Act 149, school construction, it points out when there's a grant program to come up with a master plan, facilities master plan. Is that something we're going to pursue on the SU level, or is that something we should pursue on the school district?
We're looking currently, Louis and I are looking into what that actually funds and whether or not that would benefit local as well as SU. And if we can apply for both the local district as well as SU, or if there's, we'd have to look at, what we're trying to identify is if we apply as an SU, then it's up to us to then choose how those funds are allotted across our districts. Or if we could have, say, Wells Springs and Fort Valley both apply for the grants as in a separate district. So
We don't have that in.
that right now.
I haven't read the whole bill, but it says when it expires in 29. Does it start right away or?
I do not believe it starts our next week. There's not a lot of information that's been provided to us.
I'll try to read the bill. Thank you.
I guess more information on that for that for you as well in August too.
On to the principal reports. Actually, I have a question for Wells. Under the physical plan, you got a grant or? with the
No, I
HVAC?
said we have applied
You have
for,
applied.
applied for.
Well, and it's gonna cover that.
That if it gets approved for everything. It was written that way.
It's right for both buildings.
For both
So
buildings.
they have the HVAC system here
Yeah.
and well, so a few other generators and
I just find that just because like that's a big grant.
It's, well, 128 is enough for both buildings?
No,
No.
It's
So, no.
96 for Middletown.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I saw in your report.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only question. So no, that's that. All right. Moving on. Our monthly finances. This information. Anyone have any question about the financings at all? Okay. On to old business. So for the community engagement newsletter that we discussed last month, I think it was. So myself, Matt, and Amanda met with Greg Connors, and we had talked about the idea of creating a place or a way to share information with those who want to subscribe to an email subscription list. That is actually live. If you go to the website, there's a link on there, not a link, same link, right on the main page of Wells Village School, and then likewise on Middletown Springs page. You can put in your email address and subscribe to it. So a MailChimp account was created. All this stuff is in the works. Matt did a test that was actually surpassed the expectations of how I thought it would look. So things are in place to do this, and I think the next step is what we were going or what it's going to look like. And I think Matt, I don't know if we wanted to talk about additional stuff that you may want to add to this, because when we talked about it before, it was agendas, like informational board stuff, right? Agendas and the newsletters. But go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Just seeing if I can share my screen. Do I have that ability? Present. Let's see. I'm going to present this screen. So I hope you guys can see this. So you can see my mouse moving.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this was the sample email that Eric was referring to. So we've got the two schools up here, an agenda where you could click on it and it would bring us out to that document. Principal's report for both schools, and then superintendent's report and meeting minutes, and then a footer which we can populate with different links and such. So talking with Amanda and Eric, talking about what we want to have on this, thinking maybe their thoughts were, or maybe it was and I missed the boat here, but I think the last meeting people were talking about having chalkboard information here which we could certainly do. But if this just trying to figure out what our cadence is, I see this as a once a month email. But if we're trying to send this out once a week, then maybe, yeah, then chalkboard information would be possible. But as a once a month, I was thinking we could have the principal's reports, the superintendent's reports. I think that information is valuable. If there's time and effort that goes into making those, and it gives people a full picture of what's happening. And also, of course, the meeting minutes, and then sort of the primary information here of the agenda. So if you click into this, that would, take you to, that's opening up another link in my opening up the link here. But yeah, this is a first start, first pass. So open to feedback. I think Eric, Amanda, and myself are going to meet again next week potentially to work on this some more. And then in addition to this, which again is what it is, it can look totally different next time we present this. But in addition to this, there is a welcome email that will go out to anybody who subscribes. So how that works is we have so many subscribers right now from the survey and from other means. And everyone on that survey, once we say go, we'll get this welcome email welcoming them to this monthly or weekly, however we decide, email. And then additionally, anybody new that subscribes will also get this email as soon as they subscribe. So we'll be presenting, I suppose, next meeting, a new look at this after some changes, and also a welcoming email, which everyone will get as they subscribe. So curious if the board has questions or comments or concerns or anything based on what I've just presented.
No, I think it looks really good. Like I said, I was really surprised, and all the information there are links. So it'll just take you to the actual links that are on like the main website. But I'm not sure how much more you can customize it. But my, my concern, because we're doing this, any information and any messaging that goes out is at the board level that, there's no one, all decisions and messaging is done by the board. So I think that we really need to really put into place and set what is going to go out in these communications. And I know it says another point on the agenda, it says newsletter, and that's what it was on the agenda before, but really there's no newsletter. It's just linking information is what it is. So I think I want to kind of steer away from newsletter, and just for that simple fact that we're not typing anything up. It's just really like, this is information, this is how you get to it, and that's what there is. So I mean, any feedback the board has on, I think now's the time to really just kind of set this in stone, so that way when the first one goes out, there's no surprises.
Would there be your weekly send home newsletters?
I think that's what Matt was talking about, that if we did it once a month. But I wonder if, I don't know if our newsletters are archived on the website, but I wonder if Shannon can somehow archive on the website so that there's a link in there that goes to a newsletter page for each school,
So maybe,
and then you have access to them.
Because I think the general public
Yeah.
would have an interest in seeing.
Yeah, I mean, we have the Facebook, a linked Facebook, but yeah, we could put a link here to the individual schools here, and also individual, potentially if those are hosted somewhere, those chalkboard reports, a link to
That's
those.
Kind of in a newsletter format.
It is a newsletter
Yeah.
format, and I
Yeah.
think Shannon would,
I think we can
I also
have
wasn't-
Shannon update the website.
yeah.
Yeah, I also wasn't sure about including like the SU calendar. somewhere in there, like for vacations and such. And then, like if we didn't do a link to a weekly chalkboard or Friday notice, like the monthly calendar that you guys put out. I know I've seen it recently in Carol's stuff that she sent out, like, you know, we have this
Right,
PTO
like upcoming
event.
events.
Yeah, so maybe if we did like the school's monthly calendar, if we couldn't make the weekly thing work, that might be another way to share that. And then the only other idea I had was about including board members and their term expirations so that the community knew when people's terms would be expiring and those positions would be opening or not, if we all had like a little headshot with who we are, what town we live in, and what's our term expiration. Might just be a nice thing to put on the bottom or
I like that. Yeah.
somewhere.
Yes, and to go back to what Eric was saying, this is not a newsletter, it's more of like a template. So anything, things of that nature, like Amanda's saying, like the board members and their terms, that's not going to change week to week. But this text changes, you know, when the date of the next meeting is, and then the underlying asset links change. So we also have to be mindful about how much work, how to maintain this. So we want this to be more templated, so less copy, unless we want AI writing our copy. But we want to have things like as a template. So to Eric's point, it's not really a newsletter. It's just kind of like a dashboard for folks that subscribe to this to get easy links to things that are pertinent for the month. But I like those ideas of the calendar and all that stuff.
And then maybe even, and we can talk more about it when we're together, but if the board agrees, if we had some kind of link, I don't know what we would title it, maybe, you know, special news or something, so that if we had something like budget information or consolidation information that we decide to share that month, the link is already there, that they would just, that's where it would be found, but just kind of
Yeah.
at the same month to month, it just might not always have information.
So my thought with that too was that we would have the welcome email would be one template, and that's copy that we will not change. We'll just set that up. We'll have this, whatever this becomes, this template, and then we could create sort of a framework of whatever those special announcements are. We could create a template for the look and feel of that and just update it as needed.
Okay.
Because that would, I assume, would require board approval anyway, because we would need to have specific terms and stuff. So really, it could be like three templates we could be bringing back next month.
Mary?
Yeah, I would just, kind of echo to keep it simple. I mean, most likely, more likely than not, the text messages I get from friends, from community members are basically, when's the next meeting, where's the agenda, and how can I log on? So I just think those, if we just kept it, simple, but those are this, I think everybody knows where to find like the Friday notices and everything else, in that regard. But those are just the three questions I usually get, which obviously are going to be addressed on this template. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think too that folks sign up for this, whether they have intentions on coming to meetings often, it's there. That information's there, and so just to click just to see what's on the agenda is all I could take just for additional community engagement. So, anything else?
Yeah, I would say this does. So the principal's reports are not. I don't know if they're publicly available on the site. When I was looking, they were out of date. At least the link on the Grixu. And I didn't find any space for the superintendent's report on Grixu website. So having links to those that are publicly available would be helpful. if we're going to incorporate these into the template.
That would have to be after the meetings.
Sorry, what was?
Yeah.
After they've accepted them.
Well.
I think that's what we need to decide too. Are we posting official minutes or unofficial minutes? I think we should only post official, which would be a month behind.
I mean, if we caveat it, I mean, this is unapproved meetings from our most recent meeting. So, I mean, that's, I think, the most informative. And I'm okay with saying caveating. And on the meeting minutes itself, right, it says, we click into it, it says like unofficial in big letters, right?
I know, I think that if we're sending it out to the public, sending them unofficial minutes in their email could get confusing if there is something that we don't approve or that is changed. I think maybe our minutes should be a month behind and then the agendas are what's upcoming so that we're only posting what's already been approved by the board, not what's pending approval.
I would push back on that just to say, like, as someone, you know, I want to see what happened last meeting.
They
I
are,
want to see what happened 2 months ago.
it's part of open meeting laws to be able to see them. It's whether we choose to put them here as well as where they already are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they are, maybe a separate link, maybe like unofficial minutes next to that or something. I just don't think we should send the unofficial minutes. I think if they wanted the unofficial minutes, they could go to the SU website and find them there. But I think for us to deliver something that's not approved,
Too many clicks are
I don't know.
gonna lose people.
So I think there's some more discussion on how we're gonna like structure this too, because the information that we want to go out, when is that going to be available on the website link wise? You know what I mean, because like I said, these are all links
Right, if
to
you're,
what's on there, so they got to be it's got to be added. Most everything usually is, you know. I understand that the superintendent's reports are, but that's another conversation. But also too, when is this monthly email going to go out? And it's got to line up with the information that's provided. So again, there's some more figuring out that we got to do. Like I said in the email, like, you know, we should just get together and figure out all this timeline stuff. But in regards to what's going out, I think, you know, before we meet again, it would be good to know, or at least get some kind of consensus from the board, if there's any objections to this information that is publicly available. It's all board related information, reports, minutes.
can I ask a question? So the meeting minutes that it's linked to is where all meeting minutes are, not just the most recent.
How it's currently set up is it goes to the most recent, unapproved.
So
But
it's
that could change. That could be changed to the drive.
Yeah, I wonder if making it a link to all of our minutes is better than just the,
It would be, honestly, it'd be less updating. So if we could do that instead, so whoever's doing the send for this month, for example, they wouldn't have to adjust this one. Similar to these, if the principal reports are all in the same folder, you wouldn't have to update any of these. Same thing with the agenda. I mean, if we wanted to do it that way, this will open the agenda so it's less clicking around. So there's a benefit to that, right? The user doesn't have to click in and then find the thing and then click that. It's just one click. But in terms of maintainability, it's pretty easy. We could just send this out once a month on a calendar basis. No one has to send it out. It could just run automatically. If all of these go to folders, we don't have to update anything. Forgive me. We have to change this text here. So it'll be one thing we still have to, unless we can programmatically figure this out, we'll likely have to come in and at least edit this meeting minute information.
5 minutes.
when we on the top, Matt, where the GRCSU logo is, when the email comes through, it looks as if it's from the GRCSU, because that's the first thing you see. Is there a way to bypass that with leaving it there for it to look like it's from Wall Springs first? Or is that kind of just like whatever's on top is what shows up in the subject line?
We could look at that. Your preference would be to get rid of this completely, or
No,
to put
maybe
it
just-
underneath?
No,
Yeah.
No, are you talking about?
I'm just thinking about like in my phone when you sent the test,
Yeah,
before I scrolled to the subject line to see this is a test from Matt,
yeah.
it looked like Chris was sending me something in the summer. It looked
I
like
see.
Rutland County Supervisory Union because that was the first logo that popped up. And this is a local board message, not an SU message.
It's
Yeah.
See how you see how that's on top?
the email address.
You can set preview text here, so when you're on your phone, it's
So
say
see right there, if you go up to where it says from Greater Rutland Supervisory Union 66. Like, how do we not make it say that? Because it looks like it's from Chris.
yeah. That I don't know. That's
Maybe we can write that down as a Greg question.
yeah, that's a great question.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. Some bugs to work out, but that's what I was going to say. I saw that too. It says GRCSU 66. Okay. All right. So again, any objection to what Matt has presented tonight?
In terms of content,
yeah.
so do we want the principal's reports? Everybody's good with that? We want the superintendent's reports? I assume we want the meeting minutes and the agenda, but the question is maybe linking to the folder. Sorry, go ahead, Amanda.
That sounds good. I don't hear any
And
objections
then
to it.
including, did we want to include a calendar when we meet next week, or do we not want to? It's like if we approve everything that we're including now, we could just do it next week and bring back a more completed one in August. To be agendas, minutes, calendars, chalkboard on Friday notices, if we can get a link to the page altogether, principals reports, board members and term expirations, and superintendent report.
And again, it's all information that's good on the
Right.
website. So it's not very. But I guess anyone who really wants to school calendar is those who have kids.
Chris, can we get a headshot? I was looking on the Grixu webpage. I couldn't find one for you. Maybe in the same flavor as the principals.
Same flavor?
The same flavor.
What does that
You
mean?
know, the
Guys,
same
I'm-
look. The same look. You know, you got this stylized background.
No, he means you got to grow your hair out.
Right.
Yeah.
Navy blue shirt.
I love that look, but I'll try. Yes, well, there are some stock photos of me that's
Sweet. All right.
see if we get the same flavor for you. Slightly different flavor. I hope that's okay.
That'll be fine.
All right.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna move this on.
One quick question.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have talked about is putting a copy of a packet linked, so not the same information that the board receives, but more like a public information packet, and uploading that. I think, Matt, what I like to do is the principal's report, the superintendent's report were part of that packet. So someone then they could go, they view the minutes, and then if there's a reference about appendices or like contract recommendations, they can just click the packet and they'll be able to see the packet, which has all that information that is for public consumption, which would be principal board, superintendent's board, contract recommendations. We can put that all in one category, but that's what we were going to do for this fall, was have on the same page we have agendas, minutes. We'd also have a packet link as well for each of them. So that might take care of, the multiple tabs there, the principals, two principal report and superintendent's report, just into a board packet.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that way we could have, depending on how fast you guys are moving on that and how soon we want to approve this, but yeah, it could be one agenda and then kind of similar how we have two grids. One would be the packet, and then one would be the meeting minutes. I assume we want to call out the meeting minutes, even though it might be in the packet. But yeah,
One question just around open meeting law, since, as of July 1st, we have to make the recordings available. Does the board want to also have a link to a recording of the meeting as well? And the reason I say that is because there will be a lag on the recordings, because we can't post the video, the recording, or the audio or the video until the official minutes have been approved. So always we have a month lag. If that makes sense. So it won't be like 2 weeks later. It would be, we have to wait till after the date, because whatever the official minutes are approved, that's when we post the video for a minimum of 30 days.
I thought it had to be posted within 4 days of the meeting.
So the official minutes, but the recordings or whatever the official minutes are. So we don't approve official minutes till the meeting.
Yeah, no,
We
I
post the
understand.
unofficial minutes, but so once we approve the official minutes, then that's when we post the video. We can't.
That's not how I understood it.
Yeah, the open meeting law, we're not supposed to post until the official minutes have been approved.
Okay.
And we don't approve official minutes until the following meeting.
okay. So we'll need a video link up here. If that's a suggestion, we could do that as well.
That was for consideration. Would be previous meeting, obviously.
I
Right.
like that. That's an easier. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we just say tonight, Eric, anything that is already available to the public on other websites, we can put in this one thread? So then we don't have to each time be like, can we put the video link? Can we put the thing? Can we just approve that as a board tonight? But if it's already on the issue website or already on a local website, can we take that information into this one newsletter? And then if it's not already out there, like budget information and things, when those kind of things come, then we would need approval on that.
Yeah.
And then that was like, if we do that as a board, then we don't have to keep kind of.
Yeah, I think that's what I was getting at earlier too, just anything that's on the website that, it just, instead of, we're just like, here's information. All people have to do is just click it.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this. So, I'm fine with that. Because it's not any kind of message from the board. It is just really everyone in agreement that this information is going out on the email subscription list regularly. So, okay. No, some really good ideas. And we'll talk about timing too. I think realistically, to get it all out, have it ready to go by the time school starts would be great. In the meantime, people can still subscribe to the email list. It's not about the content. Okay, so we're going to move on to new business. Student liaison representative. All right. Going to pass this on to Mary. Mary asked that this be put on the agenda.
Yeah, just really quickly, I was at a VSAC conference earlier this month, and that's the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation. Long story short, there was a student on the panel, and he discussed that one of the earliest memories of him kind of getting into community and policy and what he does now in college, and he was pretty impressive, was that there was a 5th/6th grade kind of like student liaison to the local school board. And so I just wanted to throw that idea out there. Hopefully he can come next month and just, discuss really quickly in community just his experience and like just how it shaped, some of his aspirations going forward, and how it got his family actually more involved, which was kind of a cool idea that he brought to the table. So so again, I wanted him to come tonight, couldn't make it. So hopefully for the next board meeting, he can come and just, talk during public comment. And then also I'm, since I'm new to the board, I'm not sure if we had anything like that going previous years. If it's something that maybe we can discuss with like Mr. Carlson or, even, I don't know if Wells and Middletown would be thinking about doing it, but just, he struck me as a, really cool student, and that was a very impactful experience that he had. And I wondered if we could maybe think about doing something like that.
Yeah, I think, student voice is important. We do have a student council well.
So have we done anything like that in the past, Eric, that you know of? Just something that,
Yeah, in Rutland Southwest, we did years ago.
okay. So, I mean, we can just, obviously if this is something the board thinks is a great idea, we can maybe just keep talking about it, bring it to the teachers and the principals. But I just thought it was, he just made a really great impression, and talking about how that was kind of, one of his first forays into thinking about community as a whole, and how it kind of led to him, doing other things down the road.
Pat?
I love this idea. I just curious how this would work. It would be like, would this person like present something every school board meeting about student life, or just would they weigh in on things
Right.
we're
And,
talking about?
obviously this can just be a first conversation. Like I said, I hoped he was able to come tonight. He couldn't make it. So I'm not sure if it was, if it was a rotating student body, if it was, basically volunteer, if it was, a requirement. I'm not sure exactly how it went down, but, we could always present it to the 5th and 6th graders if they're interested in it. Maybe as like a 6th grade project or something along those lines. So it was just an idea that I had. And I'm sure, if we've done it before in the past, maybe we can look back to see how it was done. But I know, it doesn't have to be a large, I guess, project if it's, wouldn't want to put any more onerous on like the teachers or like, but just maybe some kids are interested, and exploring that. And that'd be great if we could bring them to the table more often. So just an idea I had.
So the Vermont School Board Association does have a guide to student voice packets. So everyone has access to the Vermont School Board Association. I could actually send out the packet for you. But the nice thing about this, it's only 16 pages, not long, but it does provide a readiness assessment. It also walks boards through just, determining the scope of this work, what they may look like, what they've prepared, but it's a nice framework for boards to center their discussion around this and decide how they want to proceed with this one way or another. So I suggest that I can include as part of the board packets for next month, and then if the board wants to do this, they use this framework as part of that discussion.
Is there anyone in Greater Rutland doing anything like this?
There have been discussions around this, but I think it's part of logistics, and I think we'll hear that again coming up this year. But I know that the concern, say, at Quarry Valley is, we have we have 5 schools, we have 5 representatives, the rotation to have a small council, then one or two come through. But there have been discussions, and I know with the change of board, it kind of died down, but there will be some, there'll be a revamped discussion around that. And my recommendation will be for any board is just to look at this guide that the Vermont School Board Association is providing.
Yeah, no, I always curious how it would look at the elementary level. I think good amount of conversation we had. So I think with that information, we could have it on next month's agenda. We'll have that VSDA guide to review and really just make a determination if this is something that good. Good. All right. Thanks, Mary.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Go on to our second public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to speak tonight? Okay. So our next meeting is August 14th. This is going to conclude our business portion of the meeting. Folks who are online are more than welcome to stay for the workshop part of our agenda. So we can take a 5-minute break. Anyone needs to use the restroom at all? Okay. So, as we talked about at our previous meeting, we're going to have a retreat this month, but we're going to cover some board workshop items here, and just kind of go over the district governance standards that are to be implemented July 1st in 2025. And I think for those who aren't familiar with this is just kind of like a rundown. I'm going to use the presentation from the last PSBA's webinar here, and just kind of go through some key points that, and if anyone has any questions, do my best to answer them. Okay, so, okay, so with the district quality standards, it is part of Act 127, another part of Act 127 that from 2022, which, you know, just really just kind of lists out 3 types of work for boards. Mainly clearly identify expectations and then identify the weak spots of those through the board work. So this applies to supervisory union, supervisory districts, and school districts as well. Obviously not to independent schools. So the AOE's, you know, responsibility in this around providing equitable access and high quality education to Vermont learners. The AOE should not be directly responsible for managing. You know, this is the work that districts should be doing. So again, and for a little bit of history, something that I probably should have started with. And again, obviously, everyone has heard of the government standards, but in 2022, when they passed the law, the AOE enlisted the help of the VSBA to set up a task force. Task force consisted of school board members and the VSBA, and basically that task force was responsible for drafting these standards. To which, when it was done, there was very minimal changes done, and they were adopted almost pretty much as is. So, providing new district standards and business operation, facilities management, and safety. Our responsibility is around governance. And we'll get into that a little bit later. In regards to what's in our responsibility for governance. Is there any questions? Like, if you have any questions about this, please jump right on. Right, so in relation to the, district quality standards and the quality assurance regulations, basically that, the DQS provides a bridge to the quality assurance. And if anyone's familiar with the quality assurance regulations that the State Board of Education has, I'm not really going to get into that, but that's where the DQS came. Like, the idea behind it was there's accountability for the districts to provide the high quality of education and equity. So the looking at the quality assurance regulations in this, one thing I just wanted to point out that the review piece that that is part of our responsibility, like we did back in June with the self-assessment. That's just one of the pieces to it. They also use state assessment scores as well. So when you look at the district quality standards as they are, they're pretty broad. Like it's not very specific. It doesn't really specifically tell you how this works, but I think that was really in part with this presentation that we had done through the VSBA, is to really outline some of this information that's going to be used to the DPS is going to be used for the quality assurance piece. All right, so and then going into the review. So the self-evaluation that's annually done. This will be each district's responsibility. And the one that we used was just kind of like something that was created by the VSBA. That's not officially what we're going to be using. So what's going to be rolled out is that they're going to have a online form that would be submitted. What it's going to look like, it's not done yet. How it's going to be done yet, we don't know, but they don't know. But just covering the self-evaluation piece. When all that stuff gets rolled out, we'll probably hear more about it. So for the review process, and I think this was quite shocking to me. So the first year self-evaluations, this is kind of like where you're at. And, for a while I thought that they were going to take all this information from districts and use that right away. But it's kind of like how you're doing and are you progressing. So what's really going to after 3 years where they do I guess a 3-year review of the self-assessments, the agency may make recommendations, and these recommendations could be for something as simple as guidance, and help, to basically improve that self-assessment. And they are in the process of developing like a rubric for scales. What's going to look like, but all that information is to come. So there's an enforcement piece to this as well. And one thing, I wish I had mentioned that the SUV treatment too was that this isn't new. The enforcement piece where the state board could take corrective action that already existed. It exists in PSA 65. And going back to earlier, the district quality standards is just another means of using it. But, again, it's going to take basically a lot of I guess not doing anything for that to happen. I don't think that's.
What, do you mean that, I want to call it?
I think a district would have to be very irresponsible in this for so if you're not doing self-assessments or you're not moving in a forward direction of the quality standards, like intentionally,
Yeah. Well, but they're just looking at the quality standards as one piece of it.
Yeah. Yep.
So by student numbers and staff student ratios, may suggest to them that they are ready to consolidate or terminate schools.
Yeah.
That's part of the enforcement. That's what's something we've talked about many times, and at some point it may get taken out of our hands as to what we can do.
And I think that too why that statute exists. This is just another means to which that they if their staff is good. So anyway, like I said, with the expectations are just about approaching proficiency, as I mentioned earlier. Improvement over time, I think, is ultimately what the goal. I'm trying to look at this. Data testing, late 25. Okay. So, no. Everyone has a copy of the district quality standards. So if you go to page 7, and so we're looking at section 113 on page 70 for the governance standards. And we've seen some of this in the self-assessment that we had taken before. And a lot of this stuff really, to a certain extent, most boards, should be doing anyway on some level. That's just
Sorry, Eric, I missed that. What 113 what on page 7?
113, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, those ones. Got it.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions? And I think the whole point of this is really just familiarize with it. I think just going back to the assessment, the self-assessment that we did, looking at some of the areas that were low, I guess that might be something that we continue to work on throughout the year. It's depending on where we're at.
Is some of this going to be formalized in the way of, for lack of a better term, making a scorecard?
Yeah.
Like 11324, the board undertakes its own continuous learning and development and provides members with opportunities for ongoing training and support, et cetera. Like, we all kind of know that's there and available, but is anybody marking down who's doing what in the way of personal development, professional development?
Yeah.
I mean, if they come and ask us who did what,
Well, it's the board undertakes its own continuous learning, not the board member.
well, that's
So it's, but
That's
I'm
us.
saying,
that's
the
us.
score
Okay,
is for the
collectively.
whole board.
But who's keeping the score? That's my point.
Well,
This lines up with what we did last month, right? I mean, and it'll be in that kind of format.
yeah, and technically right now we're doing our own continuous learning.
Yeah.
This is a
I think
So that we're going to say the vehicle is our annual
yeah.
goals and things like that.
Are you asking if it has to be reported, like,
If the state comes and asks us, how are
right,
you meeting
that's
this?
my
How are
question
you
too,
meeting
like,
this?
how do
What
you
do
prove
we-
it? How do we prove that
What
we're
do we
doing
come
it?
back with?
That's
Do we
gonna be in the
have to-
rubric that they provide that to go along with these questions, I guess you would call them.
And the rubric is just done annually? All
So-
at once,
So,
or?
yeah,
Mhm.
And it's going to help us keep track of what we're doing too. It's not just to satisfy somebody else. Like, hey, we said we were going to do this and we only got halfway. What did we do to get the rest of the way? You know what I mean?
and again, the way it says that, it's really up to us to determine how we're achieving that, really, because it's really open-ended, or not open-ended, but it's open so that, we can either, let's say, take 20 minutes out of, in another meeting to, address, let's say a webinar or something like that, right? Or we could, let's say, a good example is like the new changes to open meeting law. You can have like a 10-minute explanation from like the superintendent or a lawyer or something like, you know what I mean? So like those are ways, like, kind of really up to us, but to bring a really good point up is when we do that self-assessment, look back to say, we actually didn't do anything. So I think that's where that play.
I think also, once this is up and running, you will have your scorecard to look back on and help set, because this is to help you set agendas and because there are boards out there that are just paying bills. And this is, their state is asking us to do more.
No, I think this is good, and I think it's, something we can definitely use to improve, but, the framework's not all there yet. And I guess, like you say, we need more from the state.
George, I actually see this, because we have Act 29 assurances that superintendents have to fill out. There's also the annual AOA assurances summary, where it's a long list of items that superintendents have to each year just check off and just say, we're doing a nice job of this. You know, we're still working on this. Yeah, and it really is kind of an honor system. You know, you go back, we meet with department heads, we meet the admin team, we go through and we do this, and we check off, and then we submit to the AOE. The AOE then provides a report back to us on what we're doing. But really, is more just, we signed off, verified that we are doing this, and if for some reason they find out we're not, then that's we're held accountable for this. But
I think it also provides that opportunity to say, we're not doing this, and so next year, this has got to be on our agenda on a regular
Okay,
basis. So, and that's the kind of thing I'm hoping the state is looking for in terms of improving.
Yeah, this can help us make our goal.
And I think that the proficiency scales that are going to be coming, I think their timeline was by the end of summer to have it done, and in the fall to review will help boards as well to achieve, some of those.
And is it done January to December or August to June?
It's
Or
done,
September to June?
on a fiscal year, so it's got to be, it's got to be done by July 1. I think.
Okay.
There's for the submitting the form. I've got a lot of questions around that, so all that information will eventually come. So there's still plenty of time in between. And then also, there's another on those slides. Something that I'll mention too is that I mentioned like the honor system, but they did say that if boards are reporting advanced proficiency, then they're going to explore like how they got there. So they will make contact. So if I thought that was interesting because like how would they know? We did great. So they're thinking of that too. So just in case.
Well, particularly if it doesn't marry well with the other aspects of the standards.
Yeah.
If the students aren't doing well, then they're saying that we're reviewing better.
And Eric, I think the AOE probably that's the reason why they come and explore before that's reported at their advance. But just to see, hey, what are these great things you can do with that they can then provide that through like a VSBA workshop, seminar. That's so that's kind of well, right. Just if there's some great things that a board is doing, then I think that's something that they want to promote and share as well with others. Some great practices. So that comes. What's that?
So that's my first thought.
We're trying to put positives.
I know. Okay. Yeah. So it's this applies to any other government standards. I think to a certain extent, we look at Matt.
Yeah, it was just 11314. The superintendent assessment. Didn't we do that like last year, but we didn't do it this year because it was happening on a like a Grixu level or?
Yeah. So the superintendent evaluation piece is that's done. It's normally done at the SU level, but I did ask about that too because that was my first thought was in the past the SU has gotten as superintendent evaluation information from member districts, brought it back. I think the year before it wasn't. Anyway, so right now at the SU level, there's a committee really establishing a superintendent evaluation process. But going back to the SU evaluates the superintendent, but there's nothing to say that a board can't. And so what does that mean? Well, that means essentially Or, and, maybe based off of their goals, but it's not gonna be at the upper level, if that makes sense. And I think that the work being done for the superintendent evaluation process might really set how this process is going to work, because there's really been absolutely no consistency as far as.
And the word district is kind of covering a lot of different, has a lot of different definitions. Because it's, SUs are considered districts, or supervisory districts are considered districts, or ours is a supervisory union composed of 4 districts. Yeah, I feel like they just use that term in a very broad sense.
Yeah, it doesn't even, on 1.4, it doesn't even say that, it just says the board.
Yeah.
So, kind of a little bit of an oversight somewhere. But, yeah. I think there could be some clarification.
We'll always have representation at the SU level. And we're certainly going to see the results of any evaluation. I hope that would be enough.
But at least the box is checked for us. It's getting done in
Yeah,
terms of our responsibility. Yeah.
And it says if applicable, they throw that term in there too, in the header. Applicable of each member school district.
oh yeah, there you go.
If our standard is we've got representation, we review the results, I think I would hope that would be enough from our standpoint.
It's kind of the input I got though too is that even though it's at the SU level, district board should do it, which really just kind of confuses the heck out of me on how that would work. But the first thing that comes to mind is if a district board did do it, right, to meet that criteria or whatever, it would just be probably solely based off of those local, maybe district boards or whatever. But
But that's also opportunity for the members, attending members of the SU from that local board to bring that kind of evaluation
that's a-
information forward during the SU
Contribution.
funding.
absolutely. So, if applicant,
I feel like we talked about this in SU, the impact of the
at your table.
Yeah.
But I think, and like I said, the executive committee regarding that, just really diving into this process, coming up with an actual timeline, criteria, evaluation that makes sense. Okay. All right. Did anyone have any other questions or? On page 8, the board maintains an ongoing relationship with locally elected officials. That one, obviously, we do have local representatives in the area. But then what about select board members too? Yes. I think that might be something to really explore this year. Especially establish some kind of relationship in a way where, I think, select board members, they, at least from my perspective, they know what's going on in town. Not their life. And, through that process, though, too, it can help, maybe, we're talking about budgets and stuff like that, having some sort of, communication might help with, budgetary issues. That's the first.
I would just send it to them, like, yeah. See if they use it.
Well, we have subscribe then.
Well, the whole idea is the easy way to get information.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's district quality standards in a nutshell. But everyone has them, and I think even though the self-assessment that we did isn't really like the official one, it's going to be done later on. I think it kind of establishes like a baseline of what things should be on the agenda or can come up on the agenda to move in that direction in several months. So keep that in mind. Anyone has any suggestions or ideas about it? All right. So, you have anything? All right. So the other thing that I wanted to cover tonight, since we're not having a retreat and we're not redoing our reevaluating our goals, is to go through. Last time I looked at our work plan was in February, and basically just take a look at this work plan, where we go from here, potentially what we can do to work toward these goals, and again, this is a working document. That we can add, we can change some of the elements of the goals too. Because these were all done at the retreat last year, and I think just taking a look at how we're going to keep moving toward these might look like in the coming months. So let's start off with, so we'll just go to number A, community engagement. Number 2, assess if our community methods are reaching them. Again, I think we're still moving toward this one, especially with the email subscription. How well it's working, no, I think that'll have to come once we start sending emails out, honestly. Matt?
Yeah, I just want to add with the emailing, we get to see how many people open the emails, the read rate percentage. So we are going to get metrics on those emails that we send out, which is great.
Have you checked lately to see how many people are subscribed?
Sorry, we're dancing over here about our potty training. No.
Matt, it's perfectly fine. We
It's
want
okay.
kids.
We like it.
Okay. Hey, girl.
Good job, girl.
Okay, girls. Good job. I can check and get back to you on that. I'll look on that right now.
Okay.
Good job, Matt.
At least it's got.
Thank you.
Do we monitor general public involvement at our meetings? Like keep it count?
In our minutes, it has, those who are guests.
Okay.
So, and then obviously public comment. But, I think, you know, the question is how these methods are reaching people. If we have, like Matt said, he can look and see, like, if people are actually opening email. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
When I got sent the information from MailChimp, I logged in and I wanted to see how well it worked. So I used my personal email address on the website, and it's so simple. Like all you have to put your email in, and then you get an email, and you just confirm, and it automatically updated MailChimp. I was like, you don't have to do that. And so I don't know. The process is a lot easier than it's really coming together, honestly.
So our audience is quite small. I just checked the numbers. It's 19 plus 2 that I got from Strawberry Jam Run on a sign up. So 20, let's call it 21. But that'll grow hopefully as people find this more valuable. They'll spread the word, and we can look into, you know, putting clipboards and events and stuff like that, and getting more signatures and emails on and importing them into it. So small start, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I did create a front porch forum post with these are. So I did create a front porch forum post with, you know, information to the communication. I was hoping that this would go, but there's still time, especially go ahead.
I did just receive an email. This is probably the wrong time to bring it up, but since we're all here tonight talking about email stuff, I asked Greg during the break about changing that SU thing, and he just replied to say that he was not aware, neither were we, that MailChimp is actually $20 a month. So we need to decide if the board wants to pay $20 a month to do that.
What?
Have the MailChimp subscription. It's a subscription. So I didn't realize that. But Greg just replied and said, if it's $20 a month.
Okay, well, we'll have to.
It's also free. You could do
That before we go meet to do August.
we could roll a free version of it. That's, I mean, for sending out one a month, but it might not have all the bells and whistles, but
Right.
an option
Yeah.
too.
I don't know. It's just something that
Well, we'll have to approve
decide.
it at our next meeting. We can't do it.
once we decide the frequency.
What's that?
Weekly is an
Yeah.
issue.
We've been billed for July, I guess. But we was gonna talk to this and then let us know.
I mean, $20 is.
It's $20. So I don't know, whatever.
We'll
Anyway,
talk about
there's
it. We'll talk
information.
about it next week. Anyway, okay, so going back to number 2 here, where I think, you know, if we check in, maybe this is July now. Maybe if we check in December, January, see where we're at as far as progress goes on this. But I can't think of anything else to add to this.
Did you increase the percentage completed?
Oh yeah,
I'm just
we can do
saying,
that. Yeah.
I mean, because I think we're a little further along. 50-60% now?
Yeah.
I had quarterly checks, review on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I think having given that time, you can have enough time in there for
twice a year,
When I look at this, I'm like,
end of the semester.
yeah. When I look at this, my first thought is, like, what does 100% like? So there's, community engagement is never ending.
It's,
So I think we're pretty in depth into community engagement. Tap into the best known ways. I think it's, as we talked about before, we use all the methods we can as far as what's going on, emails to communicate with people. And then obviously some of the more important issues, budgeting, that's done through the mail system too, but all right. Fiscal responsibility. A deep dive into shared resources. We haven't moved the needle much on this in the last year.
I think this is because we were talking about having the information when we were talking about consolidation and stuff. And so, but then we moved that to August. So that's why we don't really have that yet. So maybe if we just say by August, then we should be able to say we have information on it.
Well, we did this before we really started having the consolidation discussions, and I think this is really just like just the financial piece in relation to the budget. Like, can we save with more, sharing more resources? And the first thing that comes to mind is, like, how do we do this? And maybe that, maybe this conversation would be more involved when we start talking about budgets in the fall. Because what that would look like. So we can kind of tie this to some budget discussions, I think, and really just look into it. And at that time, I'm sure we'll have more information on what the budget will look like, where we'd be fiscally responsible through sharing resources is the big one. We're kind of working on that.
You're like, meeting.
Yeah. I would say that this ties in with some of that too, because within that process, we're asking for information.
And then I'd say,
So maybe, I mean, I think there's a little bit more progress with that. Because without input, it's really kind of hard to establish future vision.
maybe number 4, we're halfway complete instead of 0 because we didn't set a date. Or before we had to.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, I had actually updated this and added that stuff on here. For the community forums. Yeah, so you said 50%?
I don't know, even, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I guess it's halfway there, right? The first step is to schedule the date, the next step is to get the outcome. So I don't know what else we could get out of continue to have forums.
I'd say because we scheduled the meeting. I mean,
Well, and the completion date, is that we have them scheduled to complete or
Right,
in
that's
the meetings,
right. I don't know.
second column?
oh,
Do we push that out?
wait, were you looking at?
The second column, where it says 8/31/24, completion, complete. Where it says continue to have forums or community input, and then the next column, it says complete by date, and
Oh,
the date is 8/31/24.
I'm sorry, it's on the other page. It's interesting. Yeah. So why the dates are there? Okay. Yeah, so I think, maybe those were added. Just for like that yearly. For that
Okay,
yearly.
yes.
So, yeah, if to have the community forums, it's not done by that date, but, definitely, or at least thinking about this and moving toward that,
Right, I guess, did we need to schedule them by August or to have them by August? I guess, because we've scheduled them by August. We just
Well-
haven't held them.
we could literally change them before. We could change it to say schedule, like,
Yeah, I mean, that was what we wanted to accomplish, it's done, we said,
it, it's,
not a big deal.
and when you think about it though, too, when the last year, I was thinking, when looking at this objective on here, what are we gonna have a community forum for? This is like months ago. And at that time it was, well, in the consolidation piece, we're ready to have a community forum yet, so looking back now, probably could have started that sooner, knowing that it would have ended up doing it. But, yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I think, maybe just to say have community forums for input. But
25%.
okay, Amanda says 25%. Thoughts? And the other thing I just want to mention though too is we're not locked into what's like this whole review too. Is if there's something else that we can do to make this a decade. we can add it to this. I still, looking at this, last week, I was like, a lot of this stuff still looks relevant. So I really can't think of any changes, but yeah. All right. Define benefits for high quality student experience. And we're going to need to think about this. This is under fiscal responsibility. So I don't know. It almost seems like it should be under fiscal responsibility.
I feel like the reason we put it under fiscal responsibility is because when we were talking about it last, Matt had given examples about what could we add that would benefit the student experience and still be fiscally responsible. Right? Everybody wants
Okay.
more but wants to pay less, but what can we add that might only be a little more? Like, how can we increase our students' experiences every day, but still be fiscally responsible? What else? I think that's why we put it there.
Okay.
And we were talking about it around consolidation, like, our extracurricular stuff for art programs, or we were talking about what we could add in that would still be, it might still be in the wrong category, and maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly, but I feel like that's the conversation I remember.
Or it's not worded
Yeah.
correctly to what we're actually intended.
Yeah, I think it was like, how can we offer more, but not pay much more? Just kind of a silly question, right? Like, nothing's free.
Well, when you put it that way, it makes sense as far as why it was there.
Best use.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you put more,
right.
people are gonna look at that.
Right, and I think we were talking about like the summer programs and stuff too when we were talking.
Yeah,
How can we increase their experiences at a low cost?
but yeah, whatever we feel is necessary, we have to do it the most economical way with the best outcome.
So,
Yeah, and in agreement with all that. I mean, adding language again, things of that nature, if it's under budget. I'm for it.
yeah. So probably another budgetary discussion piece. Something to think about.
You wanna elaborate? Like, instead of saying define benefits of high quality student experience, do we wanna change the wording so that next time we have a better understanding, or do we feel like that's fine?
You can definitely, rephrase it.
So it's kind of weird, define benefits.
Yes.
Oh. High quality experience is a benefit.
I think what we need to skip.
It'd be more like defining
Right.
the opportunities for a high quality student experience, possibilities, factors, options.
Yeah, I think that, there was talk about even without adding any new features or programs, I think folks here were talking about precedent for larger classrooms actually providing a better opportunity for learning. So
That's what I keep hearing in my head is more students in a classroom.
yeah, I don't know if there's like, if we have research that backs it up, that would be helpful to bring to the public, but things of that nature could help. Or different ways in which we could look at exploring curriculum or, how we rotate, or what's that term called, where students go with the same teacher for multiple times. That's shown. I think I've read there's benefits to that. So it doesn't have necessarily need to add to the budget
Yeah.
either. I think it's called looping, with students loop or something.
Yeah.
Same teacher
Yeah,
for 2
we've talked
years.
about it before.
Yeah.
You have the same teacher for 2 years, like in first grade and second grade, you'll have the
Okay.
same teacher, and then that teacher goes back down to first grade. And
I mean, the goal should be to maintain a high quality student experience. That's the goal.
And
How we do that by doing different things.
and this kind of comes back to the survey too. Like, those were the things: communication, student experience and outcomes, and safety. Those were the three things that people said. Like, those were the inputs that we got back, like in all of the short answers. So I think it's something to look at, but I just don't know what route you want to look at it from first, I guess.
Yeah, I like, like Meredith's suggestion to find opportunities.
Yeah.
To really clarify it a little bit better. But when we talk about this, obviously adding anything to the schools for an opportunity could affect the budget. I think, that's person. But I like the idea of it's trying to explore it, because there might be ideas out there that don't really impact the budget.
I think some of it is like the shared classrooms even too. Like, if we go back to consolidation, if we look at, hey, you might have a 3-4, or if we consolidate, we have all these kids in third grade that we can offer this to, but in 3-4 we can only offer this. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, what can we offer if we're all together versus if we're still separate? What are those differences?
I think we're all on the same page. It's just the wording looks out of place in this
Yeah.
category. So what Meredith said would certainly be better.
It does make sense, looking at going back to the tree, finding opportunities and adding them. It's gonna have some sort of engagement to it. So I think that's one.
What was your wording there?
Well, the thing was to get away from defined benefits.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know what benefits are. So we needed something like, what are,
Explore opportunities for high qualities.
yeah, that would be better. These are factors.
Yeah.
So I
Instead of defined benefits, explore opportunities for higher quality student experiences.
Let's say again.
Instead of defined benefits, explore opportunities,
Yeah, explore opportunities.
and then higher or high, whatever, quality student experiences. Everyone like that?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a little bit of sense. And yeah, this is something that would look forward to, depending on what that looks like. Maybe that involves student counseling. There's another experience right there. It's not directly related to school, but it's an opportunity. Okay. Student preparedness, focus on full student growth, fairness and advancement. We're 10% on this. So I think the idea behind this is just to have that community information about, students going into seventh grade, right?
Just like the whole choice district as a whole, like what does it mean to be a choice district? But when we were discussing it at community engagement, it felt like something that we couldn't go to Corey and Carol and be like, hey, we're bringing 50 people to you on Tuesday at 3. Be ready. You know, like, so we kind of put a hold on it because it felt like it wasn't our place to shove, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's tricky when you think about how doing it at, you know, like food committee work, stuff like that,
Right.
because it's,
And it also was like if we were to call like Granville guidance counselor or, you know, Long Trail or something, we're not the admin, we're the board member. So we also don't know what the schedule's like at the school to be like, hey, this time works for you, can you come? Or, you know, it felt like we were kind of stepping on toes to us as the committee.
Yep.
So we weren't really sure where to go with it, but still thought it was a good idea and something that we'd like to see happen because it felt like there were a lot of families that don't know what it means to be a choice district.
yeah. Again, this is tricky because like, this isn't something that, you know, essentially to do something like this, asking others with doing it, you know,
right.
and it's not.
Yeah.
So I think evaluating, where we want to go with this particular, item. We want to change it or remove it. Let's see.
Do we want to say we'll shoot for it and ask? And like, hey, we'll ask the admin for 3 possible dates that it works, and then task one of us to make the call and invite them. If they can come, awesome. If they can't, they can't. But it was our first attempt. Or I just don't know how we would achieve it.
So the first thing that comes to mind on doing something like this, like our standpoint would be, it's got a community engagement piece to it. So we talked about in reorganizations having community engagement on agenda items or on agendas like every other, right? And so that might be a way to start the conversation at a regular review. But how we right, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something that folks.
Then it's also like when I did chat with somebody at Granville, but then it's those questions like, how many kids do you have in 6th grade? How many do you have coming in next year? How many do you have coming in the following year? Like, we don't know that right off the top of our heads for both schools.
Yeah, we do. It's
So-
in the principal's report.
Yeah, but they don't actually stay. Like, who's actually there during the school year? It might say 6, but we might have 3,
Yeah, yeah.
on, you know?
I feel like we're making a bigger deal out of this.
Okay.
Like this is something we need to decide to do or not. And we asked admin to put on a choice fair. Or not.
And then say, hey, do you need our help or not?
Well,
Or
it's
like-
not our place
or
really
just-
to help. I don't
Okay.
think. I think our idea is community engagement, like you said.
Yeah.
We decided was an important thing for our community to better understand what being in a choice.
Yeah.
And if you want to volunteer.
No, I mean,
help
I don't-
coordinate it.
No, I
you know, I don't
agree
think
with
it's
you, I just
our
feel
board
like,
as a board.
I guess I felt like as the community engagement committee, we couldn't come and be like, hey, guys, you have to do this before July. Like, You know what I mean? Like, we can't really.
No, I think the
as a
board would
committee,
have
we
to
can't really do
decide,
that.
no, I think the board would have to decide to tackle.
How is it handled internally with a fifth or sixth grader?
My experience this year was that, with the exception of one student, every child came in sixth grade knowing where they were going. And so then we, is mostly Patricia Swain, who's my guidance counselor, did a lot of coordination with the schools, around visits. We did transport some students like over to Mill River for their visitation day because it was a day, things like that.
We handle it similarly, leaving it, actually, we had the full class go to Granville. Then they also go visit Fulton. So we have those connections, but they know the other options that they have. We just don't provide them a visit, but we had kids last year that took visits to those families, I think, kind of know what the options are.
Does anyone come asking you or guidance, like for contact information to the different schools? Who should they contact if they want to visit? Or do you leave that up to the parent?
Oh, no, I've had a couple of parents come in and say, like, who do I need to reach out to at Granville? Do you have a contact? And actually, our sixth grade teachers have always been really good about keeping up with that. So did the admin assistant. So the information is pretty readily available.
And I would say my counselor did follow up with families. If students told her where they were going, she
Okay.
then would connect with families to say, you know, your child said this is where they were going. How can I support you? Do you need numbers? Do you need me to schedule a visit? Things like that. So she was very active.
So not that we should be pushing anybody in any specific direction, but we ought to be considering that, we have 3 high schools in our supervisor that are not necessarily getting access to these kids. Like maybe they knew, students knew more about than, let's say, West Rutland. You know, they might be inclined, but without that exposure at a choice fair, they, you know, don't even know, you know, they hear what they hear. And I don't think, that's always good. I know I've had kids go and, you know, whoa, they gave us a pen and we got a string sack and, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, otherwise, I might not have looked at a school, you know, if they had gone to all these schools. And I think it makes more sense to bring the schools to us.
So I think we can really put this on an agenda and really have a full depth discussion about it.
Really?
Like, because, right, well, in the context of like what we're doing right now, we're not in an action. Like, this is just like a motion. So we really can't ask administration to do anything for us.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think though, looking at the time we have left tonight, there's much greater conversations. I have questions too, but in regards to this, you know, I do think that we should have at least some sort of like timeline of this completed by. As we want to have something in place for next, to have it done like next spring or whatever.
Anyway, I mean,
We can't wait. They've already made decisions by the spring.
So like October, so
I
that
mean,
we can
I would
prepare
say
it and be ready
fall
for
would be
after.
better. Most of them are
After Christmas, right?
Okay, okay,
The
that's
earlier
good.
the better.
All right, so, yeah, so late fall.
We're not there much in November with Thanksgiving, and then it's Christmas break, and then it's New Year's.
plus that way, if they aren't 100% sure, they can make those plans to make visits at the
Right.
schools. But I do think it's a little strange that we're providing a bus to go to Granville or to Mill River, to take kids there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for the day.
Yeah.
Oh, visit.
That's good, but even so, I think it's
We have so few kids, it was the best.
still a little strange. But maybe it makes sense too. I mean, I've over the years experienced so many variety, like certain teachers would get really engaged as they would go and make an effort to take their kids to 3 different schools.
Okay. But again, I think it. Take that on supervisor, but
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to board level expectations and understanding assessments. Well, we talked about this last year. I think the idea was that understanding the actual assessments. I think I look at their new assessments and still like the fast bridge. I don't know how. So this particular, objective, I think it's important one too, because looking at that data and just being able to, answer questions about it is important. But also, how the administrators take that information is another part of that. Look, and fast bridge is just one example. So I think the idea was, at least to my understanding, is that get more information about the assessments, and I just kind of go back to like first looking at like maps and stuff like that, and then now we're not even doing anything. So what information can we get to really understand the assessments in a way that makes a difference?
Of course, we look for progress, but with changes in testing and things like that, it's not apples to apples over time. But I think tracking that first grade groups, the second, third, and fourth with consistent testing, I mean, how were they making out? Were they making adequate progress? That's what we should be looking at. And if it's not happening and there's reasons, we need to ask why.
And I think if we do that and look at just our kids for a couple of years and not as much of the like state comparison, we're comparing to groups of 20 kids when we have 4. Not that we shouldn't look at that, but obviously the average of 20 kids is going to be higher than if all about 4 kids are all kind of falling here. So I think we should like data up.
I think, when we, to a certain extent, when we do get the assessments and stuff, there's that opportunity there to gain an understanding. We'll ask all the important questions around the assessments. So I'm not sure if spending additional time understanding the assessments will help or make a difference when we have that opportunity every time we look at the assessment. Fall, mid-year review.
When we look at those, is there a way to know if they completed the test or if they just like that a time frame because the tests shut off at a certain time? Or do they have to?
Depending, it depends on the test.
Okay.
So in Fast Bridge, you have a few that are timed because they're checking automaticity or fluency.
Yeah.
I would say the majority is not timed.
Okay.
But in order for them to measure the fluency or automaticity, it has to be timed. So they would have completed the test. And then with the bit cap, there's no.
Okay.
They already get the B2 cap back yet? Still waiting.
It is frustrating.
Sure, that makes it more challenging for the administration when it comes to taking that information.
There, it is very frustrating. I know, Lisa, Madison, and I were talking about this morning as we were looking at strategic plan and preparing for having a retreat next week. Having both of us having worked in other states prior, myself in New Jersey most recently, and then Lisa in Massachusetts, we looked at one of the nice things about both those states where they provided IM analysis. You've got the test back in a relatively prompt manner, so you had opportunities to look at the results, look at areas of strength and areas of weakness, look at the actual type of questions, and so do that analysis, and then work with your staff so that coming back in the fall, they would be ready to go. The problem that we've had in the past with the big cap is we're receiving results and they're embargoed, or you just get these scores. You can't do an item analysis because the state is not releasing any items. So it's much more difficult to work with this information. Our staff do a nice job, but then again, when you're getting information, say in October or November, it's challenging. And I think that was part of the sell, what intended years ago, around this moving from paper to electronic, was that you get this back by the end of the year, a much quicker turnaround. One reason or another, we're not. So
We don't have things electronic. There's not paper.
So it is something we're working through with the states, but it is something which I think having people understand, that big cap is one measurement. And I think we have to look at other, so you look at, as George said, we look at the cohort over the course of the year, fall and spring. We also got cohort over a 3 to 4 year period, and we get to see, progression, growth. And those are things that, that Corey and Carol work staff on, during the year, just look at, strength, curriculum, look at, lesson design. I think there are some things for start doing standards mapping, where you really look at your standards over the course of the year, your prior indicators, and you start to kind of match out where you see peaks and valleys with this, high strength of curriculum. But those are things which we are continually working on around data and using data to inform instruction. But I think those are good conversations for us to have as we are discussing with Fast Bridge, we are discussing mid cap, other things. I think those are also questions that the board would like us to respond or answer. Prior here, just some of those questions that Corey, Carol, myself, and Lisa is available that we come to the board with answers.
Yeah, just kind of going back to like the Fast Bridge. I know it's relatively new, and from what I understand, I can't remember. I think it was SU or maybe it was at ours, but I think there's a certain level of the information being customized on what's being presented. Isn't that an option?
I don't know about this. Well, I mean, customize in terms of you have to generate a report. Like map, you just click a button and it will pump out a report. With Fast Bridge, we have to sometimes manually create that report. So
You know, so, I mean, so now what people confuse customization with us doctoring or whatever. It really is things we have to look at. I know that the maps had a nice, matrix, so like a, you know, a 4x4 plot, where you can look at where we can do that with FastBridge, but it's manual entry. So a map, it was just, you know, click a button and then it generate that. FastBridge, it's a little more time consuming, but, we believe that we found a workaround work to expedite that process. So Corey, did that.
No, I'm just thinking of the quadrant
Yeah.
chart. You know, the other thing is that because our class sizes are so small,
Yeah.
the way we present data has to be different because we can't present individual classroom data for classes on the size of 11, which is 50% every class.
Yeah.
So
We could present in a closed executive session, but not.
not public.
And I think, the note on here is not to get too detailed. Trying to remember what exactly that was referring to, but that's the first thing I thought was, looking at individual classes. That's probably a little bit too detailed, but I think the information that we get as a district is sufficient. But that's just my opinion.
Well, Eric, I mean, we have discussed, it's an avenue group, we want to see 100% of our students experience growth in the first year. And as we see where that's not occurring, I think, you know, Corey and Carol's up there, there are questions to be asked. What's going on, why? I think those are valid questions and what can be done. So I think the delicate area is having those discussions, or, you know, they could say on a forum where one individual teacher or a teacher feels as if they're being called out or questioned, or I think that's just where we have to navigate that carefully. So, but we do have the expectation that every one of our kids experiences growth in the first year, you know, and we work on it, but that's something which we can control. What we should be seeing.
So I think we are meeting this in some way, just with the conversations we have around the assessment. Trying to think, as far as BT cap goes, that's just once a year, right?
Yes.
And we didn't see it last year.
It was embargoed until past winter. And that was because of the first year and they just didn't know what to do with the data and put off COVID and just.
Remember, my daughter's sixth grade was like the main moment. That's how I want it. Okay. So we really haven't even looked at okay. So, okay. So, I mean, you know, percentage wise.
And Eric, I didn't make a good job, but we are going to start seeing the CIPs, school CIP, SIPs will be brought back for more discussion as well. During COVID, those were kind of shelved. And the reason why I bring that back up, because there's a lot of good conversations around, you know, Middletown Springs and Wells, you know, SIPs and academic achievements, you know, academic success, and it all kind of works together. So I think that there will be some natural discussions around that. I know that I do believe, speaking of Lisa, it's in September. That will bring the SIPs before the local boards for review and for discussion. Take a look at it.
Cool. Yeah, so I think, you know, we're in the right direction, but you know, more of this will probably come as we see more and more assessments. Just literally get better. Fast food. Yeah. Any thoughts on this? We'll move on. Set forth calendar for data. We did that. The board level monitoring and progress programs. Same thing. There's state and national. Sorry, but is that comparison on the Fastbridge state and national average?
As school district and national.
What about,
Students,
If you could have that, it's.
I'm just curious because of our growth as well as comparison against the state. And this is just monitoring, that's all. So if we're focused on monitoring that's why I asked. But, I mean, does that make a difference? All right, any final thoughts on the district goals? I think, just going through and just talking through what we've done and, what we need to kind of work on over the coming months, I think is good. Again, if you have any suggestions or ideas that we can expect some of the stuff on the agenda is going forward. So that concludes our work for tonight. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.